Hello and welcome to Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds. I'm Nerdicus Dave. Today I'm joined by Nora Ibrahim.
Yeah, Ibrahim.
Okay.
You got it.
Awesome. How are you doing today?
Doing good. Thanks for having me on. It's
Thanks.
early. I'm on the West Coast, so I got my coffee. It's not even
Yeah.
morning.
I've got my coffee too, but like I don't know. There's like if you ever do like medical questionnaires and they're like, how many cups of coffee do you have? And I'm like crossing out cup, replacing it with the word pot. Um, So I pretty much drink coffee throughout the day. For people that aren't familiar with your work, you want to tell us what you do?
Yeah, I am a full-time nerd, like full-time streamer. I stream on multiple different networks, playing numerous different TTRPGs. Um, yeah, this is what I'm doing
Yeah, well, you're
right
also
now.
playing in a lot of games, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I stream on multiple for multiple networks. So I think most people know me from LA by Night. That was like my first breakout kind of
Yeah,
like big thing. Um, LA by Night, which is Vampire the Masquerade. Um, I'm on Mondays. I'm with Realmsmith for we play D&D. We do two seasons that are kind of like interchanged. So we switch off between Tides of Wildmount, which is going to have their season finale next Monday, and then we're going to pick back up with our Curse of Strahd campaign Into the Mist. Let me see. I always have to think about like what am I doing right now.
yeah.
I'm part of currently with Glass Cannon Network, who's doing New Game Who Dis, where we're doing a Call of Cthulhu series with myself and Becca Scott as guests joining the gang. Saturdays, I play Princess Jasmine in a all princess D&D adventure on Pixel Circus that's run by Kaylee Bray. Um, Once a month I do a Call of Cthulhu game with the Initiative Order. That was my very first experience playing Call of Cthulhu, and I just fell in love with it. So we just continue on our 1920s Call of Cthulhu game. Um, Fridays I'm usually with Q Times running World of Darkness. B. Dave Walters runs consecutive different World of Darkness games that are all set in New York. That's been so much fun and the most beautiful chaos I've ever like been a part of.
Yeah, yeah.
It's been such fun games. And then occasionally um, I play Cyberpunk Red with the creator of Cyberpunk Red, Mike Pondsmith, as our GM with Matt Lillard and Luke Gygax, and Jason Azevedo from Realmsmith. What else am I doing? What am I doing in my life? I think that's it for now. I think that's it. With some other fun stuff coming up though for this year, some big things.
That is quite the schedule. So how many days a week do you end up streaming games?
Well, those are the things that I do consistently, and then
Yeah,
I'm also on the days that I'm supposed to sleep. I'll usually like do a guest spot. Yeah, oh, yeah, like occasionally I'll play with Beetle and Grimm's, um, and so that it usually ends up just filling up. I will maybe not stream 1 or 2 days a week.
so I think we've had pretty much everyone on you've mentioned except for Glass Cannon. We're coming for you eventually to
Oh, they're
talk
great.
to. So we're circling in a lot of the same orbits. There's a lot of great content creators out there that you just
Yeah.
mentioned. How do you keep all those characters straight?
It's so, I don't know, because there, I just know that my brain will compartmentalize so much so that when I go to sign on for like a Zoom call for whatever game I'm doing at that moment, I can't even remember like what I did in the other game or what my character's name was. Like my brain will just be like, no, focus, try
Yeah.
like blinders. Um, I don't know. I'm really bad at taking notes, so there'll just be scribbles, but I do get so into the character that like once I'm in the game, like everything will come back to me when I'm there. But if I try to like sit and think about what I did last week for one game, it like takes me a minute.
Yeah, like I know, like so we have a Saturday unstreamed game that we play online, and I'm always like, I have no idea what we did last Saturday. I just know I had a lot of fun hanging out with you folks. So I couldn't imagine that many games, and I also am not particularly great at taking notes at times.
I rely so much on those DM recaps. Those save my life. I'm like, oh yeah, that's what we did.
So a lot of times in our games, we make the players do the recaps. And like
so some for mine too, but I just never volunteer.
Yeah. So I mean, I like it as a tool as the GM to kind of like highlight what was important to those players, like for the games that happened. I think that works. But yeah, so last night we played in a game called Dungeons and Delving, and it's basically like the concept is it's a reality TV show about teams delving in dungeons and you scoring points that way. And there's like 6 different teams, and finally I was like, Ted, you gotta just give us a cheat sheet with all the teams and the names and just the general of the characters. Too many of them for us to track. Because you would like go ahead.
Oh no, I did do like a filmed D&D game where we did certain like it was Have Dice Will Travel, and we filmed all of our games, and those were all live play, but they were filmed. And then we would do the cutaway, like The Office, where they would ask us like what happened, or was that reality, and we did it in character. So that concept to me was so entertaining and so much fun to be a part of.
Yeah, I mean, I did consider us like shooting like solo clips, like maybe from a phone or something, and then inserting them during the session. But I'm like, oh no, that sounds like a nightmare. But we do have this technology, and I briefly entertained it. And I'm like, I just don't hate myself enough to do that.
It is a little more challenging now that we have to do it at all of our games like this.
Yeah.
Rather than being in a studio. It's been weird because I was so used to that format, but it's been such a bummer that I can't sit there face to face with my friends at a table.
Yeah.
But the upside has been I've gotten to play so many more games with people I didn't think I'd ever get to play with because we lived far away from each other. So that has been like the silver lining in it.
That and no pants. Pants are optional.
That no pants, sweatpants. Those are that's the reality of the situation.
You only have to look good from here up.
But you know what? Just make sure that you pause that video or not get up during your meetings.
And you're good to go.
Yeah, and then you're fine.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely true. I mean, gaming online and not being in person does give us so many more opportunities to meet with people we never would in different states, different continents, different time zones. Mm-hmm. But like I said, I don't know how you keep track of so many characters at once. Do you do character voices?
I do a few character voices for depending on what setting it is and kind of the vibe. So I did so for one, I did this one shot, and this has been, I brought this to a Beadle and Grimm's one shot that we did, but it's from a character that I play in a home game. And she's just my mom from the Midwest, from Wisconsin, or from North Dakota. And she's very pleasant. She wears mom jeans, and she's a warlock. And she says she'll surprise you because you think she's just so cheerful and gonna say something, gosh darn adorable, and then she'll just surprise you by her the unexpected bloodlust that happens during the game, which as warlocks do.
Warlock hexing and Eldritch Blast in mom jeans.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then I played I played a puka in Changeling for for a Changeling game on Q Times, and because that was set in New York and it was a very I guess not suitable for work show because it was so obnoxious, but she was kind of a character, and she was a tattoo artist. And people would come in and get tattoos from her thinking that they would, maybe come in and get whatever, symbol or something that meant something to them. But then she would use her powers so that, a couple of hours later, they'd go home and they'd probably see no regrets on the lower back. I don't know. It's whatever I feel like at the moment and how obnoxious I want to be.
How do you separate them? So I'll do character voices sometimes, but I find after a while playing, I fall out of it, or, I start mashing character voices together. How do you?
I mean, that does happen occasionally.
Yeah.
But it's, I don't know. I grew up doing theater, and I just have done it for so long, I guess, that after a while you just start thinking in that character voice, and it helps. It feels kind of weird. I've never done jumping from one to the other, so I've felt awkward doing it just now. But when I'm in it, I just start thinking in that character voice, and being able to think in that character voice and being able to just embody that personality. Some of the things that I've said as certain characters are very unique to that character that I just would never think to say in real life, but it just comes out. I don't know.
You just have to fracture your mind. I see.
Yeah.
We were playing, so we play in our Saturday game, and one of the players, V, does a voice from the crafting music, does a voice for her character, and then she's playing a changeling, and we often put together these intricate plots and plans that then we do something else. But in the moment, but where she's going to imitate Strahd, so she's doing the Strahd voice through the voice of the character that she's playing. And I'm just like, how do you, I can't even, which also makes Strahd sound like, to me sound like a Muppet Strahd. And I just keep, every time she does it, I just envision a 3-foot tall Muppet of Strahd doing the voice.
That's always super impressive when you are able to do an impression of somebody else, but in that character's voice.
Yeah.
That kind of inception is always impressive to me when I get to see it.
It breaks my brain a little bit. So, do you run any games, or are you always a player?
I'm always a player. I have been saying this for so long that I'm going to just start running games, but I'm afraid to, because I feel like you're crossing a point of no return where you'll never get to be a player again. And I hear the DMs lament of oh, now that I run games, I never get to play, and people just want me to run it for it. So I don't know. I want to run for a game for sure. My brothers have been really wanting me to run a game for them. They've never played in RPGs before, but they see occasionally what I'm doing, and they kind of want to try it out.
Join in the fun.
Yeah.
They've got RPG envy. No, so one, you should absolutely run games. Everybody should. And I think that's not it's less of a problem than it used to be, just because, or especially for someone like you, because you have a huge community to draw from. So it's not, I feel like the person that gets stuck DMing all the time is because they don't have enough players or people that they play with. So it's their table, right? And if no one else at their table steps up to GM, that's right. It's absolutely correct. They will be the only GM forever.
Yeah. Yeah, that is true. But it has become easier.
You've got a lot of tables to draw from, so it makes it easier.
True. Yeah.
And that actually happened for us too, as we kind of expanded our horizons. I joke, if you want to always have a D&D group, just start a mildly successful YouTube channel. But that's not even. But that's not even it. What happen? I feel like what happens is like we just start hanging out with more people that are in the community. Like, so your horizons kind of expand, so it just makes it easier.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, and then not only that, but there's just I feel like there's so many more available resources if you do want to start DMing or GMing a game.
Yeah.
And you're just kind of not sure how to start or what can I do or how can I be better? There are so many resources now between YouTube and different Twitch streams that, if you needed some tips or some ideas, they're out there.
Also, one of the things you have going for you when you do start GMing is you play a lot of systems, right? So that I feel like that helps create a better GM all around. You've been exposed to a lot of different ways of gaming.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. And that has all been just from having to switch from a studio format of streaming to a Zoom format.
Yeah.
Because I've had so many more opportunities to jump on and play with players that I would never have been able to play with otherwise because of the distance. But now, whereas before, like that wasn't really as possible. Now, like I can get an email and be like, "Hey, do you want to play? We're running this thing next week. Can you play with us?" I'm like, "Sure, and that's how I've been introduced to almost every new gaming system I've played, with the exception, like I started with Dungeons and Dragons, and then I learned Vampire the Masquerade, and those were just kind of like at home between friends. And then everything else after that has been because somebody's invited me on and like, can you come on and play this with us for this one shot or this game? And and I've just said yes to everything. So that's how I've been introduced to it. It's for anybody who feels like they're nervous jumping into a new system. If you know one, it's easy to jump into another. Like there will definitely be differences, but it's a lot of that I think is just nerves and just do it.
I agree. And it's the same goes from the DMing aspect too. It's just like, and hopefully like you're playing with your friends, so they'll be a little bit more forgiving anyway.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people will be, I've heard so many like chat comments or Twitter comments of like, oh, I wish I could play this, but I'm not an actor, I'm not a voice actor, and that there's this like expectation of like, oh, in order to stream or in order to do this, like you that's absolutely not the case. Like it's so you never have to, or they'll be like, oh, I've never played it before, so I'm nervous playing it, but you don't have to know all the rules to play and enjoy a game. You just need one person that knows enough of them.
Yeah.
and that everybody else is fine. And then you all just will get through it together. But yeah, you're going to, you'll make mistakes. You'll flub on a rule but that's fine. You just, the more you play, the more, you become familiar with those rules, and that's how you get better. But you never go in thinking that I can't play this because, I don't know every single rule yet. That's just, no reason to stop you.
I like generally have no desire to learn the rule set before I play the game.
Me neither. I just like to jump in.
Yeah. Like if someone hands me this 500-page book and be like, here, read this and then come play the game, I'd be like, no. I was just like, how about I jump in the game? I'll tell you what I want to do and you tell me what I need to roll. And we can figure it out as we go. I
just want basic mechanics. And what is the setting without giving me like a big book of lore, because I definitely will not.
Yeah.
Through that.
It's the worst when when the GM is just monologuing to you like a supervillain about their world, and you're like, it's a one shot. I'm never gonna even.
I don't know. I like that sometimes. Like sometimes that puts me in it. Like I'm like, oh, okay. I kind of get what I'm getting myself into.
I like to see the information presented in a more interactive way than like someone just like, going over the litany of the ages and all the lore for the world.
Oh yeah. I mean, does anybody really want like an hour? Nobody really wants an hour-long history class.
Yeah.
When you're playing, you want to just jump in.
You need just enough to get going.
Yeah, but I do like that balance between I do want to know about what's happened and why we're here, and it just kind of paints a picture of the world that we're in, because again, I'm not going to go back and read it. So if you could like put it in game where I'm like, oh, I get it. Because there are so many.
I feel it's my opinion anyway. Like it needs to be presenting in a way where you as the character are going to interact with it, not in like this, like, oh, you're from this world, you need to know all these things. And it's not going to come up in this adventure at all anyway. So
no, but I want it to be like cinematic.
Yes,
and paint a picture for me. What's the world like, and like, so that appeals to me. When I do get the chance to sit down, I will occasionally go back and like look through my different books and read through some of the lore. But again, not enough time in the day usually. And
so we can learn by doing.
I learn by doing that, and that's the thing, is that everybody has different modes of learning, and that's a great. We have so many resources. If you're a person that learns by watching, there are streams to watch, like playtests to show how a game is played. If you're one that learns by doing, you just jump in a game, and that's great. Obviously read the book if you like to read, and that's how you. But there's no right or wrong way. You just have to find what works.
Figuring out what works for you, yeah, for sure. Yeah. So, do you have a favorite system?
That's a tough one.
It can be, I know.
That's real. I know what I play most often.
Yeah.
Because
you give off White Wolf vibes to me.
I do play a lot. I would say it's between White Wolf, between Vampire and between D&D is like what I play the most often.
Yeah.
What I feel is the most, I guess, fluid for me to just dive into a game. For other systems, I'll need to sit down and like, if I'm creating a character for another game, I'll need to sit down and be like, okay, what were the rules for this again? And just make sure that I'm, in it for D&D or for Vampire, I could just create a character super quick and just jump in and play. So that's just been.
Yeah, for me, I think it's more about the people anymore for me. I don't really care what we're playing as much.
For sure.
And like, because like, there's definitely systems I don't care for, but I don't mind playing them if I'm playing them with people that I enjoyed spending time with.
Exactly.
So that makes it a lot easier. There's definitely games that have been like that. I just won't run those systems. So.
That's fair.
Yeah. So, right now you're spanning everything from fantasy, horror, and cyberpunk, which there's also been a huge run on cyberpunk recently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think I just backed like 2 different cyberpunk Kickstarters.
There is nothing more surreal to me than sitting, and there have been a few key surreal moments, I think, during this streaming throughout this pandemic. One of them is definitely having Mike Pondsmith GM Cyberpunk for you.
Yeah.
His voice is just like, I could just sit back and I don't even have to play. I could just sit back and like listen to him read a menu. I don't read Yelp reviews. That's fine. Like that's been insane. Like playing Cyberpunk has been so much fun. I think the other major one is play for Into the Mist. When we played Curse of Strahd, I've been playing Esmeralda we're going into our 3rd season, and having myself as Esmeralda, and then we had Matt Mercer as Strahd and Matthew Lillard as Rictavio. And that was a moment where we were sitting at a virtual table, and I'm just like, how is this my life right now?
That is so cool.
yeah, but I love playing getting to play different game systems because it just keeps me on my toes, I guess. And it is all about who you're playing with and who you're having fun with.
Yeah, so we play a lot of D&D, and then it's whenever we move away from the fantasy genre, then that's when I kind of like get the itch to play a different system. Uh,
Yeah, I will say that it's it kind of when I said it keeps you on your toes, like for when I started playing Call of Cthulhu, it was so different to me because all of a sudden you're in a modern-ish, because I mean it is 1920s, but all of a
yeah,
sudden you're taken away from this fantasy D&D world, and then you're brought back into a historical actual world. And so I found it, I'm like, oh, the way that I visualize my surroundings is different. And I found that because it is such an investigative game, I found that being able to visualize my surroundings in a different way, because I'm all of a sudden in like a real world scenario, helped my investigative skills. And I brought that back to my D&D games, where I'm like, now for some reason, like something
yeah.
clicked, and the way that I could visualize that realm, now when I investigate things, I feel like I got better at it because I did something different or learned something different in this other system.
Did you find it hard to switch from playing D to Call of Cthulhu in the sense that, in D&D, like we don't run away from the monsters. We're not afraid of the monsters. We fight the
Yeah.
monsters. And in Call of
Yeah.
Cthulhu, not so much.
No, you're much less heroic because you're so squishy. You your hit points are so low. It's high risk. But again, it forces you, because of the scenarios are so different. It forces you to kind of rethink your strategy in the game, and being able to all of a sudden like have to rethink your strategy when you bring it to another system. Now you have suddenly you have so many different options, and you wouldn't have thought of one thing before until you were thrown into something completely different. And that's
Yeah,
what I do like about being able to play different games.
expands your toolbox.
Yeah, for sure.
So, Dave in the chat, do you go to conventions after they open up again?
If it is, I will do so 100% as soon as it is safe enough to where I don't want to do anything risky or dumb or put other people in danger. As soon as it is truly safe to do so again, I can't wait. I miss conventions so much.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite convention?
No. I just I like I do end up getting to see the same people, like, because I do get to see my friends there, so I love seeing that. I love going to like seeing different cosplayers that show up. I don't know, every different one just has its own unique vibe to it.
Yeah, I think so. We usually, hit Gen Con, been to Origins a couple times, and then
Mm.
PAX Unplugged is in our like backyard. So that one
Oh
was,
yeah, that was the last one I went to. The last time
yeah,
they did PAX Unplugged was my last convention I went to.
I feel like that was a lot of us. Um,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then
I do love. Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say I do love Hawaii Con, obviously, because of the location
Yeah,
was
yeah.
beautiful, and super laid back. Um,
That's on my
yeah.
wife's list, I think. Uh, she's not really a con goer, but it's in Hawaii, so she's in. Um, yeah, Gamehole Con was a lot of fun, and I want to get to Gary Con, which I've
Mm.
not been to yet.
Oh, Gary Con's so much fun. I can't wait till that one open, like is a real life in person con again. Um, Again, that one has a super. It the setting is so like because of the hotel that they have it in, and you do see so many of your friends there.
Yeah,
It has a much more like I guess more like intimate vibe to it, even though it is a large convention. just because of the beautiful setting that it's in, and you're there for a few days.
Have you been to Gamehole Con?
I haven't been to that
I
one
feel
yet.
like Gary Con and Gamehole Con kind of give off the same vibes and have the same thing, and that's why I like Gamehole Con so much, kind of for the things that you just described. It
Mm.
was like, I mean, a lot of times, we go to conventions as Nerdarchy, so we don't really do a lot of convention things. But when I went to Gamehole Con, I felt like I did more convention things than than at any other convention.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I do love I don't know if you have like a method to how you there I always have to I need a big chunk of time to
yeah,
just see all the vendors because I am such a dice goblin that like
yeah.
I need to go I'm like always on the lookout for like I need a new set of dice. But I just love seeing um how people have taken a game that they love and have that inspire them in different creative outlets. So I do love that part of the convention as well.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for us, we do a lot of kind of like networking when we're there. So like the floor is actually pretty good for that. And then like most of the real stuff happens like after the convention. So my
Oh
liver's
yeah.
gotten a break this year for sure.
Oh, I miss our we would usually do karaoke nights
Okay.
after
Yeah.
during conventions. And so you will see if you will like picture everybody that you have seen on some of your favorite streams packed into like a karaoke room and seeing all these people who usually are like from one stream or another all like singing Queen at the top of their lungs together, or Tenacious D, or
Yeah. Yeah.
it's I miss that for sure.
It's
Those are
good
some of my
times.
favorite memories.
Well, that's the other aspect for conventions is like just connecting with people that you only really get to talk to over the internet. So
Yeah, yeah.
we in we were actually supposed to be throwing our first convention last year. And Jason from Realmsmith and Realmsmith was going to be there. And one of the things he was asking about was doing their Ravenloft finale. So we might have just missed meeting in person.
Aw. Well,
uh,
hopefully we will someday.
oh yeah, definitely someday.
Yeah.
But yeah, so when I was thinking about that when you mentioned that you play in that game, because we were having Jason come out to do the paint and takes, and then he's like, "Hey, can we?" Because it was supposed to be Halloween weekend, and he's like,
Mm.
can we do our Ravenloft stream game?" And I'm like, "Sure, we can figure that out. I'm sure."
Yeah, I think that Realmsmith had mentioned that they were interested in doing their own con as well,
Yeah,
that they had planned to do later this year, but I don't know if that's gonna happen. But they did mention he has mentioned it at least once on stream, so I could legally say it that he does have plans to do a realmcon or realmsmithcon or whatever he ends up calling it. But I would love to see people from the realmsmith community all together
it's
at a
it,
convention.
the convention just seems like a natural progression. It's just an excuse to like invite all your friends to a thing.
Oh yeah. Mhm.
In my mind, anyway. But I suspect that actually running it's not going to go that way. I'm just going to be stuck
It's
working.
always stressful.
Yeah,
Running a con is stressful, I would imagine.
yeah. Well, I mean, so we had brought in an event planner that we were working with to kind of alleviate some of that.
Oh, that's
So
smart.
well, and we're morons and don't know what we're doing, so we figured we should probably get someone that did know what they're doing.
There you go.
So, but the plus side is you don't need to know all the things. You just need to know someone that knows the things. Good to
Yes.
go.
Yep.
So
You don't have to be you don't have to be the fastest person running away from the monster. You have to just not be the slowest
yeah,
person running away from the monster.
that's exactly it. So what is your next stream coming up?
As in a new stream
No,
or
just what do you play? When are you playing next?
let me see. What is today? Tuesday? Is today Tuesday?
Today is Wednesday.
Today's Wednesday. Okay. Today's Wednesday, meaning, let me see. I think Saturday, because I don't think we're doing one on Friday this Friday. I think it'll be Saturday will be Damsels and Dice on Pixel Circus at 6 p.m. Pacific.
So
That is our
what is Jasmine?
Jasmine started out as a rogue originally.
Yeah.
And so when I came on, I was like, basically her stats were already done, and I just picked it up. But then the new Warlock packs came out recently, and I was like, well, she has to be a genie Warlock now.
Yeah.
Because of course she does. So that was changed mid-season.
I can also see the Beastmaster Ranger or Beast Companion Ranger as well.
Yeah.
She does hang out with that tiger, so.
She does hang out with that tiger. I, however, do have I love playing Warlocks, so I will at every opportunity, if I have the choice, will play a Warlock. So I was like, oh, let's just have her. She has a, because she has a which genie is it? The Afridi, that's the air. So she has a magic carpet. No, Afridi is a fire.
Fire, yeah.
The
Deo?
The genie one. No,
oh yeah, the actual genie. Yeah, you're right.
The actual genie one
is the earth and Mirrored is water.
Yeah, Afridi's fire. So the genie, she is a genie Warlock, so she has the flying capability. So she does when she does have that that gift.
Yeah.
I think it's like 3 times per long rest. It appears as like a magic carpet lifting her up. So you work in some thematic things.
Some Disney stuff.
Yeah. What's amazing for that show is that it's very, there are different donation tiers. So people who watch the show can, and this happens all the time, like they'll donate, and then all of a sudden there's a 2-minute interlude where we have to sing everything that's going on. Every action, every interaction has to be in song formation. And so it gets pretty chaotic with, and then they also donate to do other themed things depending on the episode. So that's always so much fun.
How big are those streamed games? Like how many players?
I believe there are 5 of us, and usually like one of them is a guest.
Okay.
I don't think there's ever more than 6 people on the stream, like including the DM at one time, just for space.
Yeah, like because I know like the produced stuff, and from the before times, there's there's got to be at least a dozen princesses there. It seems like. Yeah,
when you're filmed around a table, you have a lot more control over, but when you're doing it in this format and you're doing layouts for on Twitch, you can only fit so many faces at once. And also I feel like there's like a sweet spot where if you have too many players, you don't want to feel like, you're barely getting to do anything during a game. So I think you want to keep it under to a certain number.
Yeah. And they're short sessions, right? You said like 2 hours.
Yeah. Those are 2 hours, and I think they're edited for YouTube to be like 30 minutes or more. I don't know, something around that time. Yeah.
Yeah. I like for stream games is a 2 hour length, like 4 players seems like the perfect number.
I like a 4-player game. Yeah. And when I usually stream, it'll usually be a 3-hour game average. Yeah. I don't think I usually go more than that. But a 2-hour game also just feels nice. They're easy to watch. You just kind of jump right into the game. Um, it's more it has more like easygoing vibes to it, I feel. I think 3 hours, like when you want to do like a campaign and there's like intense plots and everything's tying in together. Um, that's usually when like a longer
Yeah.
game. All Cthulhu also has been like the game where Cthulhu and D&D are the games where I'm just like, oh, 3 hours are up already.
Yeah.
I like was not ready to like I wanted more to it's always like a cliffhanger or something exciting about to happen. And it's like, oh, but we'll pick up next week. I'm like, no. I wasn't like emotionally, I wasn't ready for it, even though like I could see the time has gone by.
Yeah. For our stream games, we've been mostly doing like 2 hours. And then, and then when we play home games, it's a bit longer. But
yeah, home games are different because you could take a break, go eat, like come back and just play until, if you're not doing anything for the next morning.
And you're not, you don't have to be on the whole time, and it's a little more casual. Yeah.
It's true.
Like,
it's different.
Even if it's like over, even when we're playing like over Zoom.
Yeah, it's different. It is definitely more casual and more relaxed when you are playing just with your friends in your living room. It's usually like my makeup's not done and I'm in my pajamas and I'm just waiting for my food to be delivered.
Yeah.
And then we can just play as long as we want. I do love, this as well, but it is a different vibe because it's like, okay, this is also has like a, not quite I'm going to work because this is an amazing thing to do for your life. But it definitely has like, more rigid guidelines than, if you're playing around a table with your friends.
Yeah. Are you not in person games, but are you playing any home games that aren't streamed?
For the time being, no. I have last year jumped on a couple of my friends' home games when I could, just because of time constraints. But I did do one home game. It was a streamed, it was a virtual home game. But we did a Simpsons D&D one shot because during one of the other times where I came on to play with them, like we just kind of got into this conversation and we were, talking about how much, I love this show and this show. And so we decided like, this has to happen. Like we need to do a Simpsons themed D&D one shot. So I played Ralph Wiggum and
oh no.
played Ralph Wiggum just so I could be like just say things like I'm Idaho.
Yeah. It doesn't sound like a very effective character though.
No, and it's literally just there for fun.
Yeah.
We got through it, but it's I feel like that to me was one of those like unforgettable moments because you get to kind of cross the streams of two things you love and bring that into like a game that you love playing.
The worst part is I'm pretty sure I've played with people that weren't playing that character, but it seems like it would be the same because they're just always doing things that they shouldn't do.
Oh yeah. I was, as Ralph, I was sitting there picking my nose and then like release it and it's poison spray. Like there's just like, we're just goofing around.
Oh, that's great.
I never take things so seriously to where like you can't, do something obnoxious just for the sake of doing it.
So it sounds like you haven't had like a regular home game in a while. Do you miss that?
I do. I like just it being laid back. I like that it goes at your own pace. And also I've formed like my very close friendships because of that. And so it does mean a lot to me. I get a soft spot for all the memories of home games.
We last year, I guess it was last year around this time before everything like shut down. V from the Crafting Muse like had a bunch of us to her house for the weekend, and like it was just a kind of like a weekend of friends and gaming. And then like immediately after that, like things kind of locked down, and so we started a Saturday group, a Saturday morning group, and they're like, well, we won't have, no one's gonna have anything to do, no one's going anywheres. We might as well do this thing, and then actually everyone got really busy anyway. But despite that, but we've been doing that for I guess for like a year now, and I was surprised because many of those people weren't playing in any games that weren't streamed, and they found it so refreshing to have a game where you could just like kind of hang out and unwind.
Yeah, you're not. It's not. You role play when you want to, or you don't have to when you don't want to. You don't always have to be like on as a character. It's
Yeah,
just it's more freeing that way. Also, I've done streams that are like very PG, like the Disney, and then ones where you can swear like a sailor and everything in between. But when you're with your friends, you're not thinking about those sort of things, and things like talking over each other and things in a normal stream where you're constantly having to be aware of.
yeah, you get to relax a little bit. Like I guess early on in Nerdarchy, we were like, I guess we should film our games and put them up. And that was back in like 2014, and I think there wasn't much of that going on at the time, and it was also really really crappy because it was like this long shot of our table with with one mic, and it just got to a certain point like there was so many people streaming and there's so many good streams out there. I'm like, maybe we should just like stop subjecting our friends to this and play the game. And and then and we do some streams things, but like those have more intent to them, where those games were just like the games we were kind of playing with our friends. And after a while, and in hindsight, we're like, oh, maybe we'd be better not to just like subject our friends to this.
But the thing is that I think that people really like seeing a group of friends play.
Yeah,
Realmsmith started out in their garage, was like filming, and they were just a group of friends who played for years, and they started out in the garage, and then finally like kind of built it up to what it is now. But I think that initial appeal of like, it just feels like you're in there sitting at their table playing with them because that they're such good friends, and that's the vibe that I think people like seeing. That like that's a big draw for me. Even when I watch streams, like if it's between one that looks like super professional, but like you don't get a sense that people have been playing together for quite some time or are comfortable with each other, versus like watching people just around like a small table with not a lot of production value, but you can
yeah,
tell that they're enjoying themselves and they love playing with each other. I love seeing those games.
yeah. Also, is like if we're going to keep doing this, we have to like step it up. So, plus, like also like being early, you don't really know how to do it, and then after doing it for a while, and then seeing other people, they're like, oh, here's some other ways we could do it better.
I mean, everything's a learning curve. So
Yeah,
everything you do in life is like you learn as you go along, and you're going to adjust it or do things differently, or it's just like it is with anything.
but so now we have like the best of both worlds. We have like those home games that we just kind of play, and then we have some stream games that we do, and the stream games are basically just like our staff. So it just kind of like made sense for us. Brian wanted to know what class was Ralph.
Ralph was again, because I love playing warlocks, he was a fiend warlock, and my reasoning, because I do have a reasoning for it. So there was an episode where he was like, that's where I saw the leprechaun. He tells me to burn things. And then like later on in that episode, like a leprechaun appears on his shoulder. So the leprechaun was his warlock in the game.
Yeah.
And it was telling him to burn things. So I did have a reason.
I think a leprechaun would be Fey though.
It would, but I
it was
wanted,
burning things.
because he's burning things.
Yeah.
I was able to justify. I was like, because I knew somebody was like, oh, Faye.
Yeah.
That was a Twitter, because I did post it on Twitter, and everybody, the Faye comment did come up, but he does need to burn things.
It was a leprechaun. It was a fiend in a leprechaun disguise.
It was a fiend in a leprechaun outfit. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It works. How much do you need to justify like like there's dragons and all this, like, it's funny how like we can nitpick certain things where like the whole thing's absurd. Yeah. So why not do it? As long as you can sort of justify it to fit within a certain rule set. It's fine.
I had guessed you were going to say warlock anyway. I didn't know which pact you were going to go with. But also, I'm like, it kind of makes sense. Like, someone like Ralph Wiggum would probably need a warlock pack just to survive everyday life. Someone's got to be looking out for that kid. Yeah,
that poor kid. He's just, I mean, you're squishy enough as it is.
Yeah.
So that also, in that sense, 2 spell slots and that's it. Also, kind of works.
It's all he's got. So
all you got.
So Brian wants to know what personalities are essential in a streaming cast.
What personalities? I don't know. I never thought about that. I think I don't know if it's personality as much as, being able to be a good listener in that sense. Especially if you're streaming and you're wanting it to be role play heavy, or not super heavy, but you do want role play incorporated into your stream. Being a good listener is going to be a key factor, because you are, a group of people interacting in the same world together. And if you are listening to each other and the things that you want to do, you can bring something to the table to help in whatever shenanigans, that you want to ensue. If you're so much concerned about like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this, and not thinking about the other people, you're not going to have like a cohesive storyline or in a cohesive group if you're just constantly thinking about the things that you want to do as a character. So it's important to listen to what your other fellow players want to do as characters, and to do what you can to help each other do those things. And even if you're purposely trying to thwart the other person in there, it's still like listening is a part of getting there. So however you choose to play it, it's I think a key factor.
You have to want to interact with the group.
Yeah. And it's the being able to yes and each other into crazy chaotic situations is always my favorite.
Yeah, like I know someone had said to me like they played in a stream and they weren't, which made them think they didn't really like the game, but the problem was like all the players seemed to want to interact with the GM and not with each other.
Yeah, it's a bummer.
Yeah. So like it definitely detracts where. And that just can be when like you get together a group of people that are not familiar with each other as well, as opposed to like the games that we stream are a lot of fun because like it's the Nerdarchy staff, so we like know each other and we're all kind of friends, and it makes a huge difference.
That's true, and there are lots of people who like. They'll never want to or be part of a stream, but they love playing the game, but they're also shy.
Yeah.
I've seen lots of people, and I've played with people at a table who are just shy people. And, that might make somebody, it's important to know, to recognize that and just kind of like help people along who kind of feel that way, because a lot of the times, like as soon as somebody feels comfortable, like the game starting, and and like you can see like the interaction, they're having fun. But sometimes it just takes a little patience to get there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different reasons to play this game, and everyone has their own. And as long as whatever someone's doing isn't like detracting from the table as a whole, we've definitely had the wallflower type person that shows up, session after session. They don't contribute much, but they're always there. And oftentimes they're one of the more reliable people as well, as far as like showing up. But like you're just wondering, I think we take it on ourselves sometimes. We like to wondering, are they having fun, or is there a problem? And it's just their personality, and and sometimes you see those people open up over time, like you said.
Yeah, and then a lot of times, it's just as important as it is. I feel like it is having a session 0 where you sit down and you talk about expectations of what you want in the game. It's also equally as important to check back after and just be like, is everybody having fun? If like, how are you feeling in this game? Maybe one of your players feels frustrated for some reason or another. And then that way you can kind of check in with each other and change the game around to where everybody's having fun. But communication is such a big part of that. So it is important to check in with people. And I, just like you said, with people who are maybe wallflowers in the game, I love playing with first time players. Like it's their first time. They're just trying to get, they don't really know what's going on or the world or like how the rules work. I love sitting down with those people and just kind of like guiding them through it. And then watching that there's always like a moment where they get it. And then like, you can find that moment of like, oh, I get what this is now and I love it. And that moment to me is like so precious. And that's like one of my favorite. So I love playing with new players.
Yeah. I think the thing that I like about new players is like, they don't know the rules. So they don't know what they can and can't do. So they just do stuff.
And sometimes it's so creative because, we do sit there and like, we're so used to playing. We have these like ideas of how, and then you bring somebody in and it's their first time. And because it's their first time, they think of something that you would never have thought of doing.
Yeah. I mean, occasionally you get weird things like I want to try and cut off its head, which is hard. But sometimes like you can do a yes, but right. Like, and let them try to do something that the game doesn't really support. But maybe as the GM, you can like find some middle ground to make them feel like they're trying to do the thing.
Yeah, for sure. Or like, again, you can try and let them try it and have them understand by trying why this might not work in this scenario.
Yeah. I mean,
rather than just being like, no, you can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Owen's Casey Stevens has this great article called "You're Always Going for the Eyes," and kind of talks about like the mechanical aspect. Because I've even seen like veteran players like, why can't I do this thing, right? That you could technically try to do in real life, like cut somebody's hand off, and it's like and the article goes on to be like, well, these are the things you're always trying to do anyway. It's just that there's not really a difference between you consciously saying I'm trying to do the thing and what would actually be, unfolding in the scene anyway. It's just that the other person or creature is also trying to do those things and also trying to not have them done to them. And that, and that's, the extraction of hit points and stuff like that. But, anyone that's interested, that's a great article to look up.
Nice. I always think the rules are there to help guide you and to help establish what the world is. But, there's I think there's always room to have incorporate your own rules in your own game, as long as they're like pre-established and talked about. It's your game to make what you want of it.
Well, that's like the great thing about the hobby, right? It's like, if you don't like something, you can change it.
Yeah.
And as long as you and the table you're playing with agree with it, you guys can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
It's always weird because
about the game.
I always see like Jeremy Crawford get asked these weird questions where it's like people asking him permission to do things at their table. And I'm like, why are you even asking? You could just do that.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's between the GM and their players what kind of, game they want to play.
Yeah. So we are up on the hour mark. Final thoughts?
I don't know. Just thank you for chatting. It's thanks for having me on. It's always nice to kind of I'm so go.
Yeah.
That it's been nice to like sit back and reflect on some of these things that I normally wouldn't just sit down and think about.
Thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. It's been great to get to know you and meet you, Nora. And
likewise.
For everyone else, there are links in the description to go follow Nora on social media and go check her out on all the streams that she's playing. And you're not going to run out of content to watch. That's for sure. And also, I think our video on the main channel just went up a few minutes ago, so you can go check that out. And until next time, stay nerdy. And